"Sutton, is that you?" She froze. That voice. She knew that voice. "What happened to you?" she whispered, kneeling in front of him, her heart shattering. Brennan looked up at her with hollow eyes. "Everything. They took everything, Sutton. The company, the money, the foundation. I've been sleeping on subway floors for 2 weeks. I didn't know where else to go." And in that moment, Sutton Reeves faced the ultimate test. Because on a freezing December morning, the man who'd once handed her unlimited wealth sat shivering outside her office building, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Lost everything. Will work for food." And the choice she made in the next 24 hours wouldn't just determine his fate. It would reveal whether kindness is something we practice when it's easy, or something we become when it costs us everything. Sutton Reeves had rebuilt her life one deliberate brick at a time. 3 years after sleeping on subway floors with her daughter Indy, she now managed the Community Outreach Division at Boston Medical Center. Not wealthy, but stable. Not powerful, but purposeful. She had a modest apartment, a reliable car, and most importantly, Indy had a childhood that looked like childhood should. Homework and soccer practice and sleepovers with friends who'd never know what it felt like to be hungry. Every morning, Sutton walked past the same subway entrance where Brennan Ashford had found her. A reminder, a testament, proof that people could still surprise you, that one act of trust could rewrite an entire timeline. She thought about Brennan often. How could she not? The man had given her more than money or housing or employment. He'd given her dignity when the world had stripped it away. He'd looked at her like she mattered when everyone else looked through her like glass. They'd stayed close over the years. Not romantic, despite what Indy occasionally hinted at with the blunt honesty only 9-year-olds possess. Just two people whose lives had collided at exactly the right moment, bound by gratitude and genuine affection, and the knowledge that they'd saved each other in different ways. Brennan still ran Ashford Global Industries, though he'd transformed it beyond recognition. The foundation they'd built together had housed over 200 families. He'd restructured his pharmaceutical company's pricing models, making life-saving medications accessible to people who'd previously had to choose between medicine and rent. His business partners hated it. His profit margins had thinned. But Brennan Ashford slept better at night than he had in 37 years. Until everything collapsed. The first domino fell on a Tuesday in September when Brennan's CFO, a man he'd trusted for 12 years, a man who'd stood as best man at his brother's wedding, was arrested for embezzlement. Not thousands. Not hundreds of thousands. $47 million, siphoned systematically over 3 years through shell companies and falsified reports. The second domino fell 2 weeks later when federal prosecutors announced they were investigating Ashford Global Industries for fraud. The CFO was cooperating. Brennan's name was everywhere, splashed across headlines that presumed guilt before trial, as if wealth itself was evidence of corruption. Billionaire faces federal charges. Ashford empire crumbles amid fraud scandal. From philanthropist to felon, the fall of Brennan Ashford. It didn't matter that Brennan had known nothing about the embezzlement. It didn't matter that he'd built his recent fortune on trying to help people. Public opinion moved faster than facts, and in the court of social media, he'd already been convicted. Investors pulled out overnight. Board members resigned. Banks froze his assets pending investigation. His legal defense alone was costing millions he suddenly couldn't access. Lawsuits piled up from shareholders claiming losses, employees claiming unpaid wages, partners claiming breach of contract. Within 3 months, Brennan Ashford went from billionaire to bankrupt. Not figuratively, literally. His penthouse was seized, his assets liquidated, his vacation homes sold at auction. Everything he'd built, everything he'd inherited, everything he'd transformed into something meaningful gone, evaporated like morning fog under legal scrutiny and financial implosion. The foundation had to close. The families they'd housed found themselves scrambling for new support. The medications they'd made affordable returned to predatory pricing under new management. Everything good Brennan had tried to create was dismantled piece by lawyers and creditors and a system that protected wealth but not the wealthy who tried to redistribute it. Sutton watched it happen from afar, horror-struck. She called him repeatedly, texted, emailed, But Brennan had gone silent. Ashamed, maybe. Broken, probably. Unwilling to drag anyone else into the wreckage of his imploded life. Until that December morning. Sutton was running late. Indy had misplaced her science project at the last minute, which led to a frantic search that made them both tardy. Sutton dropped her daughter at school, then rushed toward her office building, mentally reorganizing her entire morning schedule. She nearly walked past him. Nearly. But something made her look twice at the figure huddled against the cold brick wall outside the medical center's entrance. Something in the way he held himself, shoulders curved inward like someone trying to disappear. Sutton stopped walking. Her heart stopped beating, because she recognized that expensive wool coat, now stained and torn at the sleeve. She recognized those leather shoes, once $8,000, now worn through at the toes. She recognized that face, unshaven and gaunt and carrying a defeat so profound it seemed to radiate cold. "Brennan?" she whispered. He looked up, and the man who'd once commanded boardrooms, who'd handed her a credit card like it was nothing, who'd rebuilt her entire life with phone calls and compassion, that man was gone. In his place sat someone hollowed out, someone who'd learned what it felt like to fall and find no bottom. "Sutton." His voice cracked on her name. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." She couldn't speak, couldn't move, because there, resting against his knee, was a piece of cardboard with words written in shaky marker. "Lost everything. Will work for food. God bless you." The exact same words she'd written 3 years ago. The exact same plea. The exact same surrender. Tears burned hot down her frozen cheeks. Sutton knelt, ruining her work slacks on wet concrete, and looked into the eyes of the man who'd once knelt for her. "What happened?" she asked, though she already knew. She'd followed the news, watched his crucifixion play out in headlines and Twitter threads and televised hearings. "Everything," Brennan said simply. "They took everything. The company, the money, the foundation, my reputation, my future. I thought I had enough saved to survive the legal battle, but the lawyers bled me dry, and I still lost. I'm facing criminal charges for fraud I didn't commit. No one will hire me. No one will help me. I'm toxic, radioactive. People cross the street when they see me coming." He looked down at his hands, those same hands that had once held a platinum card. "I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks, but they repossessed it yesterday. So now I'm here, back where I found you. Full circle, I guess." Sutton felt her world tilting. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Brennan Ashford, the man who'd saved her life, was homeless, was begging outside the building where she worked because of him. Her phone buzzed, her boss probably wondering where she was. She had 3 meetings scheduled, a grant proposal due by noon, a conference call with the mayor's office about expanding their housing partnership. All of it felt absurd now, meaningless, because Brennan Ashford was sitting in front of her, broken, and she was the only person who truly understood what that felt like. "Come with me," Sutton said, the same words he'd once said to her. Brennan shook his head. "I can't ask that. I didn't come here to burden you. I just needed to see a familiar face before I disappeared completely." "Disappeared?" Sutton's voice sharpened. "Brennan, what does that mean?" He didn't answer, but she saw it in his eyes. The kind of exhaustion that whispered dangerous things. The kind of defeat that made a person wonder if the world would be better without them in it. "No," Sutton said firmly, grabbing his hands. They were ice cold. "You're coming with me. Right now. No arguments. No pride. You helped me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn." "You don't understand," Brennan said, pulling away. "If people see you with me, it'll destroy your reputation. They'll think you're associated with a criminal. You could lose your job. Everything you've built." "I don't care," Sutton said, and she realized she meant it with a ferocity that surprised her. "You gave me back my life when you had no reason to trust me. You think I'm gonna walk away when you need help? You think I'm capable of that?" Brennan stared at her, disbelief and hope warring across his ravaged features. "I learned from the best," Sutton said softly. "Now let's go. We're getting you warm, fed, and safe. Then we're going to figure this out together." She helped him stand. His body trembled. Whether from cold or emotion or exhaustion, she couldn't tell. Probably all three. She draped her coat over his shoulders, ignoring the December wind that immediately cut through her blouse. People were staring now. Her co-workers arriving for their shifts, seeing Sutton Reeves, reliable, professional, respectable Sutton Reeves, helping a homeless man. Whispering. Judging. Some probably recognizing Brennan from the news. Sutton didn't care. Let them stare. Let them whisper. She'd been the one people whispered about before. She'd survived it. She'd survived worse. She led Brennan to her car, got him inside, turned the heat to maximum. He sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, looking like a man who'd forgotten how to accept kindness. "When did you last eat?" Sutton asked, pulling out of the parking garage. "I don't remember," Brennan admitted. "Maybe yesterday? The day before? Time's gotten strange." Sutton drove to a diner 3 blocks away, somewhere warm and anonymous. She ordered him everything: eggs, pancakes, bacon, coffee, orange juice. When the food arrived, Brennan stared at it like he'd forgotten what abundance looked like. "Eat," Sutton said gently. "Please." He did, slowly at first, then faster, and Sutton realized with a pang that he'd been starving. Truly starving. This man who'd once owned everything had been wondering where his next meal would come from. While he ate, Sutton called her boss. "I have a family emergency. I won't be in today. Maybe not tomorrow either. I'll explain later." She hung up before her boss could protest, before she could be talked out of what she knew she had to do. Brennan finished eating and looked up at her, tears streaming silently down his face. "Why are you doing this?" "Because 3 years ago you asked me a question," Sutton said. "You asked what I would do if you hadn't come that day. Remember what I told you? You said you would have kept trying. That Indy deserved a father who fights." "A mother," Sutton corrected. "I said she deserved a mother who fights. And you know what you said to me?" Brennan shook his head, wiping his eyes. "You said, 'Those words pierce my chest more sharply than any betrayal.' You said wealth couldn't buy that kind of devotion. That legacy couldn't manufacture it." Sutton reached across the table, taking his trembling hands. "You taught me that the poorest people can carry the richest souls. That desperation doesn't make monsters. It reveals character. Now I'm going to teach you something." "What?" Brennan whispered. "That the same is true on the way down as it was on the way up. You're not less worthy because you lost money. You're not less valuable because you lost power. You're still the man who changed my life. You're still the man who tried to change the world. And you're still worth fighting for." Brennan's face crumpled. He buried it in his hands, his entire body shaking with sobs he'd probably been holding back for months. 3 years ago, Sutton had been the one crying at a subway station. Now it was her turn to be the steady one, to be the strength when someone else had none left. When his crying slowed, Sutton made a decision that would change both their lives again. She pulled out her wallet and removed a credit card. Not platinum this time, just a simple bank card linked to her modest checking account. The account that held her carefully saved money, her emergency fund, the financial security she'd built one paycheck at a time. She placed it on the table between them. Brennan stared at it, understanding dawning across his exhausted features. "Sutton, no. I can't." 24 hours, Sutton said, echoing his words from 3 years ago. "It's yours for 24 hours. Buy whatever you need. No limits within reason. I'm not a billionaire. No questions. No conditions." "I can't take your money," Brennan said, horror in his voice. "You have Indy. You have bills. You've worked so hard to build security. I won't let you risk that for me." "You gave me a credit card with unlimited access to billions," Sutton said. "I'm giving you access to $17,000. That's everything I've managed to save. It's not much by your old standards, but it's everything by my current ones. And I'm trusting you with it the same way you trusted me." Brennan looked at the card like it was a live grenade. "What if I fail your test? What if I spend it wrong?" "There is no test," Sutton said softly. "That's what you taught me, remember? You said you wanted to see what someone with nothing does when given everything. But really, you were testing yourself. Testing whether you could trust. Whether goodness still existed. Whether your father was wrong. She pushed the card closer to him. I already know you're good, Brennan. I know you'll only spend what you need. I know you'll probably try to spend nothing because you're too proud and too ashamed. But I'm not giving you this to test you. I'm giving you this because you're my friend, and friends help each other. No tests, no conditions, just trust. Brennan picked up the card with shaking hands. I'll pay you back, every cent. As soon as I can work again, as soon as I clear my name. I don't want it back, Sutton interrupted. This isn't a loan. It's a gift. The same way yours was a gift to me. Some things aren't meant to be repaid with money. They're meant to be repaid by becoming the kind of person who helps the next person who falls. Tears spilled down Brennan's face again. But this time they looked different. Less like despair, more like something fragile but real. Hope, maybe. Or the memory of what hope felt like. Where are you staying? Sutton asked, though she already suspected the answer. Nowhere. The shelter is full. I tried last night, but there's a waiting list. Sutton nodded, unsurprised. The same shelter that had sometimes turned her away. The same broken system that failed people every single day. You're staying with me and Indy. We have a pull-out couch. It's not much, but it's warm and safe. Sutton, I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're accepting help. There's a difference. She stood up, signaling the end of the discussion. Come on, let's get you somewhere you can rest. The drive to her apartment was quiet. Brennan stared out the window, watching Boston pass by, probably seeing it differently now. The same way Sutton had seen it differently 3 years ago. Not as a city of opportunity, but as a city that would swallow you whole if you didn't have someone to catch you. When they arrived at her modest building, Brennan looked up at the third-floor windows. This is where I helped you move in. I remember, Sutton said. You and Indy spent an hour arguing about where Stella the elephant should sit. You insisted she needed a view of the playground. Indy insisted she needed to supervise the kitchen. Despite everything, Brennan smiled faintly. Indy won. Indy always wins, Sutton agreed. Inside the apartment, everything was exactly as Brennan remembered. Small but clean. Modest but loved. Photos on the walls. Indy at soccer. Indy at her school play. Indy grinning gap-toothed with Stella the elephant still clutched in her arms despite being too old for stuffed animals. She still sleeps with Stella every night, Sutton said, following his gaze. Says Stella is lucky. That she was there the day everything changed. Brennan's throat worked. Everything okay? Yeah, Sutton said softly. Everything's okay now. She showed him the bathroom, gave him clean towels, apologized that she didn't have men's clothes that would fit. There's a Target nearby. Use the card. Get what you need, toiletries, clothes, anything. Brennan nodded mechanically. Sutton could see him struggling with the reversal, with being on the receiving end of charity he'd once so easily dispensed. Brennan, she said, making him look at her. When I was homeless, you know what the hardest part was? What? Accepting help. Feeling like I deserved it. Believing that someone's kindness wasn't a trap or a test or something I'd have to pay back with interest. Sutton's eyes were fierce. You taught me that help can be given without strings. That trust doesn't always come with contracts. Now you need to learn the same lesson. Take a shower. Rest. Use the card. Let someone help you the way you helped me. Can you do that? Brennan's voice was barely audible. I can try. Good, Sutton said. That's all I ask. While Brennan showered, Sutton sat at her small kitchen table, her phone in her hands, staring at her bank app. $17,342. Her entire safety net. The buffer between stability and catastrophe. 3 years of careful saving, budgeting, saying no to things Indy wanted so they'd have something if disaster struck again. And she just handed it to someone who might spend it all in 24 hours. Her hands trembled slightly, not with regret but with the weight of the choice. This wasn't billions in a billionaire's account. This was her life raft, her security. The thing that let her sleep at night knowing they'd be okay if she lost her job or Indy got sick or the car broke down. But then she thought about Brennan's face. The hollow defeat. The cardboard sign. The way he'd looked at her like a man who'd forgotten that kindness existed. She thought about that January morning 3 years ago when a stranger had knelt on frozen concrete and trusted her with unlimited wealth. How that trust had felt like being seen for the first time in months. How it had reminded her she was still human, still worthy, still capable of choosing right over easy. Sutton closed the bank app. She'd made her choice. Whatever happened next, she'd know she'd done the right thing. The bathroom door opened. Brennan emerged, clean for the first time in who knows how long, wearing the same dirty clothes because he hadn't gone shopping yet. But his face looked different, less gray, more alive. "There's a guest bedroom," Sutton started to say, but Brennan shook his head. "The couch is more than enough. More than I deserve." "You deserve a bed, Brennan. You deserve rest and safety and—" "I slept on concrete for 2 weeks," Brennan interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "Before that, in my car. Before that, on a friend's floor until his wife made him kick me out because she was afraid I'd contaminate them with my scandal. The couch is a palace. Trust me." Sutton wanted to argue but recognized the look in his eyes. The same look she'd probably worn 3 years ago. The look of someone who needed to accept help in small, manageable doses before they could believe they deserved more. "Okay," she said, "but you're eating dinner with us tonight. Indy gets home at 4. I haven't told her you're here yet. I wanted to ask first. Are you okay with her seeing you like this?" Brennan flinched. "I don't want her to see me as a failure." "She won't," Sutton said with certainty. "She'll see you as the man who saved her and her mom. That doesn't change because your bank account does." But Brennan looked unconvinced, and Sutton understood. Shame was harder to shed than poverty. Pride wounded in different ways than hunger. "Rest," she said finally. "We'll figure out everything else later. One step at a time." Brennan nodded and sank onto the couch that used to be in the hotel room he'd booked for them 3 years ago. Sutton had bought it used when they moved into this apartment. A tangible reminder of where they'd been and how far they'd come. Now it would hold the man who'd made that journey possible, while he tried to begin his own journey back from the edge. Sutton went to her room, closed the door, and finally let herself feel the magnitude of what had just happened. Then she picked up her phone and started making calls. Because if Brennan had taught her anything, it was that one person helping another could start a chain reaction. And she knew exactly who to call first. That afternoon, Sutton's phone lit up with a transaction notification. Transaction: $47.23. Location: Target, South Bay. Her heart clenched, not with fear, but with recognition. She remembered that feeling. The first time using Brennan's card, terrified it wouldn't work, terrified it was all a cruel joke, terrified someone would stop her and call her a thief. Then another notification. Transaction: $18.50. CVS Pharmacy. Then silence for hours. When Indy came home at 4:30, bursting through the door with her backpack and a drawing she'd made in art class, she stopped short when she saw Brennan sitting at their kitchen table. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. This gaunt, unshaven man in clothes that didn't fit right. Then her eyes went wide. "Mr. Brennan?" He tried to smile, but it came out broken. "Hi, Indy." She looked at her mother, confusion and concern on her 9-year-old face. "Why is Mr. Brennan here? Did something happen?" Sutton knelt down to her daughter's level. "Remember how Mr. Brennan helped us when we needed it most?" Indy nodded, her expression serious now. "Well, now Mr. Brennan needs help, so he's going to stay with us for a little while. Is that okay with you?" Indy looked at Brennan, really looked at him with the unflinching honesty of children who haven't learned to look away from pain. Then she walked over to him and did something that made both adults' eyes fill with tears. She climbed onto his lap and hugged him. Not gently, not carefully, but fiercely. The way you hug someone who's breaking and needs to know they won't shatter alone. "It's okay, Mr. Brennan," she whispered against his shoulder. "We've got you now, just like you had us." Brennan's arms came around her slowly, and then he was holding this child, this miracle of resilience and compassion, and crying into her hair while Sutton watched, her own tears streaming. Because this was what Brennan had given her 3 years ago. Not just money or housing, but a daughter who understood that helping people wasn't something you did when it was convenient, but something you did because it was right. A daughter who saw a broken man and didn't see weakness, but saw someone worth holding on to. That evening they ate dinner together. Spaghetti with Jared sauce, garlic bread from the grocery store bakery, a salad Indy insisted on making herself. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, but Brennan ate like it was the finest meal he'd ever tasted. Because kindness always makes food taste better. Indy chattered about her day, about the science project she was working on, about how her friend Miranda's cat had kittens and could they please get one? Absolutely not, Sutton said automatically, but she was smiling. Brennan watched them, this little family that existed because he'd once made a choice to trust instead of judge. And slowly, the gray pallor started to leave his face. Color returning. Life returning. Hope returning. After dinner, after Indy went to bed, Sutton and Brennan sat in the living room. The TV was on, but neither was watching. They were just sitting in comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who've seen each other at their worst and chosen to stay anyway. I went shopping today, Brennan said finally. With your card. I know. I got the notifications. I bought soap, deodorant, a toothbrush, 2 shirts and 1 pair of pants from the clearance rack. It came to $65 total. He pulled her card from his pocket and held it out. I want to give this back. Why? Sutton asked, making no move to take it. Because I can't take your money. Because you need it. Because... His voice cracked. Because when I was shopping, I kept thinking about what you bought 3 years ago. Medicine for Indy. Clothes for Indy. Donating to the shelter. You had access to billions and you bought necessities and gave to others. I had access to $17,000 and all I could think about was taking as little as possible. Like I didn't deserve even basic hygiene. Like I didn't deserve to be clean. Brennan. I'm broken, Sutton. The words came out raw, honest, devastating. I don't mean financially. I mean here. He pressed a fist to his chest. 3 years ago, I tested you because I wanted to know if goodness existed in desperate people. Now I know the answer to a different question. What happens when someone who thought they were good loses everything? Am I still good? Or was I only good because being good was easy? Sutton leaned forward, her eyes intense. You want to know what I think? He nodded, afraid but needing to hear it. I think you're discovering what I discovered 3 years ago. That being good isn't about grand gestures when you have everything. It's about small choices when you have nothing. You bought soap and came back. You didn't disappear. You didn't spend recklessly. You didn't take advantage. That's who you are, Brennan. With money or without it. How did you survive this? Brennan whispered. How did you wake up every day knowing you'd failed? Knowing you'd lost everything? Knowing people saw you as worthless? I didn't survive it, Sutton said quietly. Not at first. I spent weeks wanting to die. Wanting to disappear. Feeling like Indy would be better off without a mother who couldn't provide even the most basic things. I felt like I'd failed at the only job that mattered. Keeping my daughter safe. Brennan looked at her, seeing the scars of that pain even years later. But then a stranger knelt in front of me and handed me a credit card. And you know what the card meant? It wasn't about the money, though God knows we needed it. It was about being seen. About someone looking at me and deciding I was worth trusting. Worth helping. Worth treating like a human being instead of a problem to step over. She reached out and took both his hands. You survived because someone reminded you that you mattered. Now I'm reminding you. You matter, Brennan. Not because of your bank account or your company or your foundation. You matter because you're you. Because you're the man who changed how I see the world. Because you're the reason Indy grows up knowing that kindness is real. Brennan's shoulders shook. I don't know how to come back from this. 1 day at a time, Sutton said. 1 hour if that's all you can manage. 1 minute if even hours are too much. You helped me find footing when I had none. Now let me do the same for you. They sat together in the quiet apartment, Two people who'd each been broken in different ways, learning that sometimes being saved means letting someone else be strong for you. And somewhere in that silence, Brennan Ashford began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could survive this after all. The next morning, Sutton woke early. She found Brennan already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook she'd given him, writing something with fierce concentration. "What's that?" she asked, pouring coffee for both of them. "Names," Brennan said. "All the families the foundation helped before it closed. All the people whose medications became unaffordable again. All the employees who lost their jobs when the company was liquidated." He looked up at her, and there was something new in his eyes. Not hope exactly, but purpose. "I can't undo the damage. I can't bring back the foundation or the jobs or the affordable medications. But I can try to help. One person at a time. The way you're helping me." Sutton sat down across from him. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that I have skills even if I don't have money. I'm thinking that there are people who need advocacy, navigation, someone who understands the system and can help them access resources. I'm thinking that being broke doesn't mean being useless." "It never did," Sutton said softly. Brennan smiled, small but real. "I have court again next week. My lawyer says the fraud charges won't stick because they finally found evidence that my CFO doctored everything without my knowledge. I'll probably avoid prison. But my reputation is still destroyed. No company will hire me. No investor will trust me. I'm unemployable in my old world." "So build a new world," Sutton said. "You're good at that." Over the next few days, Brennan slowly came back to life. Not the polished billionaire version, but something more fundamental. More real. He helped Indy with her homework, explaining complex math problems with patience she'd never seen from her tutors. He cooked dinner most nights, simple meals made from cheap ingredients that somehow tasted better than the expensive restaurants Sutton remembered him mentioning. He also started making calls. Not to wealthy contacts or business associates, but to the families from the foundation's old files. Checking on them, offering advice on navigating assistance programs, connecting them with resources, advocating when systems failed them. He couldn't give them money anymore, but he could give them time, knowledge, and someone who gave a damn. Sutton watched him transform, watched purpose replace despair, watched him discover that identity wasn't about bank accounts. It was about impact. 1 week after Brennan had appeared outside her building, Sutton came home to find him and Indy at the kitchen table, her daughter's face serious with concentration. "What's going on?" Sutton asked. "Mr. Brennan is teaching me about helping people," Indy explained. "He says when we have a lot, we should give a lot. But when we have a little, we should give what we can. And when we have nothing, we give our time and kindness." Sutton looked at Brennan, her throat tight. "Is that what you're learning?" "It's what you taught me," Brennan said. "I just finally understood it." That night, after Indy went to bed, Brennan handed Sutton an envelope. Inside was her credit card and a receipt for exactly $65.43. Every transaction documented. Every penny accounted for. "I can't pay you back the money yet," Brennan said. "But I promise you someday I will. Not because it's a debt, but because paying it forward is how we make sure kindness doesn't die." Sutton took the card, but she also took his hand. "You already paid me back, Brennan. You paid me back 3 years ago when you trusted me. You're paying me back now by letting me help you. This is what you taught me. That trust is the most valuable currency there is." Brennan's court date came. The charges were dropped. His CFO was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Brennan's name was cleared legally, but the damage to his reputation remained. But something unexpected happened. The families he'd been helping, the ones he'd called, advocated for, supported with nothing but time and knowledge, they started telling their stories. On social media, in local news, to anyone who would listen. "Brennan Ashford lost everything helping people like us. He's broke and homeless but still fighting for families in need. They destroyed his company for trying to make medicine affordable." Slowly, painfully, the narrative began to shift. Not among the wealthy, who still saw him as a cautionary tale, but among the people he'd actually helped. The ones who mattered. A grassroots legal fund was started. Small donations, $5, $10, $20, from families who had little but gave what they could. It wouldn't make him a billionaire again. It wouldn't undo the bankruptcy, but it paid his legal fees. It gave him enough to start thinking about rebuilding. 3 months after that December morning, Sutton came home to find Brennan dressed in one of his new clearance rack shirts, his face nervous but determined. "I have a job interview," he said. "Where?" Sutton asked, surprised. "Boston Community Services. They need a director for their family assistance program. Pays $48,000 a year. It's nothing compared to what I made before, but it's enough to start rebuilding. Enough to find my own apartment eventually. Enough to begin paying you back." Sutton hugged him. "You're going to be amazing." He got the job. 6 months later, Brennan moved into a small studio apartment in Dorchester. Nothing fancy. A Murphy bed, a hot plate, a view of a parking lot. But it was his. Earned through work, not inheritance. Built through effort, not exploitation. He invited Sutton and Indy to his housewarming. They brought pizza and soda, and Indy made a banner that said, "Welcome home, Mr. Brennan," with flowers drawn in the margins. As they sat on his floor eating pizza because he didn't have furniture yet, Indy asked a question with her characteristic bluntness. "Mr. Brennan, are you happy now? Even though you're not rich anymore?" Brennan looked around his tiny studio, at the 9-year-old girl who'd once slept on subway floors, at the woman who'd saved his life by trusting him the way he'd once trusted her. "Yeah," he said, and realized he meant it. "I think I am, because I finally understand what wealth actually means. It's not about money. It's about knowing that if you fall, someone will catch you. It's about being that person for someone else. It's about trust and kindness and building something that matters more than profit margins." Indy nodded sagely. "Mama says you taught her that. Now she taught you." "She did," Brennan agreed, looking at Sutton with gratitude so profound it needed no words. 1 year after Brennan had appeared outside Sutton's office with a cardboard sign, they stood together at the opening of a new nonprofit. Not the Ashford Foundation. That name carried too much baggage, too many lawsuits, too much history. This one was called Second Chances Alliance. Co-founded by Brennan Ashford and Sutton Reeves. Funded by small donations from hundreds of families. Staffed by people who'd been homeless, who'd been broke, who'd been failed by systems that protected wealth instead of people. Its mission was simple. Help people rebuild after catastrophic loss. Not just financial loss. Any loss. Job loss. Home loss. Identity loss. The loss of believing you mattered. At the opening ceremony, Brennan stood at a small podium. No fancy suit this time. Just khakis and a button-down from Target. But he stood taller than he ever had in designer clothes. 3 years ago, he said, I tested a homeless single mother by giving her my credit card. I wanted to see if desperate people were inherently selfish. She proved they weren't. She showed me that poverty doesn't corrupt character. It reveals it. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. 1 year ago, I became that homeless person. I held a cardboard sign outside a subway station. I wondered if I'd survive the week. And the woman I'd once tested faced her own test. Would she help someone who had nothing left to offer her? Brennan looked at Sutton, standing in the front row with Indy beside her, both of them crying openly. She gave me her credit card, her entire savings, everything she'd built to feel secure. And she trusted me the same way I trusted her. No conditions, no tests, just pure, irrational kindness. He wiped his eyes. We like to think that helping people is something we do when we have excess, when it's easy, when it costs us nothing. But real kindness, the kind that actually changes lives, costs everything. Costs pride. It costs security. It costs the safety nets we've built to protect ourselves. Sutton Reeves showed me that being good isn't about what you do when you're comfortable. It's about what you do when you have every reason to protect yourself first. That's when character is tested. That's when we discover who we really are. He gestured to the small office space behind him, barely furnished, operating on a shoestring budget. This isn't much. It's not the empire I lost. It's not the foundation that was destroyed, but it's built on something stronger than money. It's built on the truth that kindness compounds, that one person helping another creates a chain reaction that echoes far beyond the original act. 3 years ago, I gave Sutton a credit card to test her character. 1 year ago, she gave me a credit card to save my life. Today, we're starting something together. Not as billionaire and homeless person, not as savior and saved, but as equals who both fell, who both climbed, who both learned that the only wealth that matters is the kind you share. Applause filled the small space. Not the polished applause of boardrooms, but the real, messy, emotional applause of people who'd survived things they shouldn't have survived. After the ceremony, Indy tugged on Brennan's sleeve. She was holding something carefully wrapped in tissue paper. "This is for you," she said. "For your new office." Brennan unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small framed photo. Brennan, Sutton, and Indy, taken at his studio apartment housewarming. They were sitting on the floor eating pizza, laughing at something Indy had said. None of them were wealthy. None of them were powerful. But all of them were home. "So you remember," Indy explained, "that being broke doesn't mean being broken. Mama says you taught her that. Now I'm teaching you." Brennan hugged her. This child who'd once been homeless, who now taught wisdom to adults. "Thank you, Indy. I'll keep this forever." That night, Sutton and Brennan sat on the steps outside the new office, watching Boston settle into evening. Traffic hummed. Lights flickered on in windows. People moved through their lives, most never knowing how close they were to falling, how much they'd need someone to catch them. "I never thanked you properly," Brennan said, "for that morning, for taking me in, for trusting me with your savings when you had every reason to protect yourself first." "You don't have to thank me," Sutton said. "You taught me how to do it." "No," Brennan said softly. "I taught you that kindness exists. You taught me that kindness endures, that it survives poverty and bankruptcy and public humiliation, that it's not something we do when it's convenient, but something we become when it costs us everything." He looked at her, this woman who'd been broken and had somehow become his foundation. "My father told me that desperate people were dangerous, that they'd destroy me if I gave them the chance." "Was he right?" Sutton asked. Brennan smiled. "Completely wrong. Desperate people didn't destroy me. They saved me. You saved me. Not with money, though God knows I needed it, but by reminding me that my worth wasn't in my bank account. It was in whether I could still see people as people, whether I could still receive help the way I'd once given it, whether I could learn to be humble enough to be helped." Sutton leaned her head on his shoulder. Two people who'd each been homeless. Two people who'd each been saved. Two people who'd learned that the most valuable thing you could give someone wasn't money or housing or even opportunity. It was trust. The kind of trust that said, "I see you. You matter. You're worth saving. And I'll prove it by risking something that costs me to give." As stars appeared over Boston, barely visible through the city lights, Brennan Ashford understood something he'd spent 37 years missing. Wealth wasn't about accumulation. It was about circulation. About taking what you've been given and passing it forward. About being saved so you could save others. About falling so you could learn how to catch people who were falling. His father had been wrong about everything. And Sutton Reeves, a homeless single mother who'd once bought children's vitamins and donated to shelters with his credit card, had been right about everything. The test he'd designed 3 years ago had actually been preparation for his own test. And he'd passed because she'd taught him how. Not with words or lectures or judgments, but with a credit card extended across a diner table. With $17,000 she couldn't afford to lose. With trust that cost her everything and saved him from himself. Some people give when it's easy. Some people give when it's hard. But the rarest people, the ones who change the world one life at a time, are the ones who give when they have nothing left. Those are the people who prove that wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in trust, in kindness, in the willingness to risk everything to catch someone who's falling. Sutton Reeves had caught Brennan Ashford when he fell. And in doing so, she taught him the lesson that would define the rest of his life. That being saved isn't about never falling. is about having someone who refuses to let you stay down. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if the story moved you, and share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness still exists. See you on the next one. We love you.